says Dominus Protector, Sovereign May, Patriot, Morning, Iligante, Domini, Virtus May, Dominus, Roman, the Man, the Refugio May, the Liberator May, Gloria Possibility, Solidary Santo, Cigarette with Jibio, Articles of Burn, and Secular, Secular Arcus says Dominus Protector May, as a Richard May, Milad Prison, Sovereign May, Patriot, Morning, and Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Christe eleison, Christe eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison. Gloria in excelsis Deo, et in terra pax Domini, ode voluntate, laudamus te, benedicimus te. Glorificamus te, gratias agimus tibi, propter magnam gloriam tuam, Domine Deus Rex Celestis, Deus Mater omnipotent, Domine Filii Uniceite, Iesu Christe, Domine Deus Agnus Dei, Filius Pars, qui tollis peccata mundi, miserere nobis, tollis peccata mundi, sucime de pregatione nostra, qui sedes ad exterra patris, miserere nobis, quoniam tu solus sanctus, tu solus Dominus, Dominos vobiscum. Oremus. Sancti nominis tui Domine timorem pariter amorem pagnos opere perpetuum. Qui annumquam quia gubernatione destituis, vos in solidaritate tuae antedictionis instituis, et Dominum nostrum Iesum Christum Filium tuum, qui te computer regnat in unitate Spiritus Sancti Deus, per omnia saecula saeculorum. Ex opus Beati Ioannis Apostoli, carissimi nolite mirare si odita odibus mundus, nocimus quoniam translati sumus de morte ad vitam, quoniam diligibus fratre, qui non diligit manet in morte, omnis qui odit fratrem suum homicidae, et citis quoniam omnis homicida, non habet vitam aeternam in seme ipso manente. In hoc coniovimus caritatem Dei, quoniam ili animam suam pro nobis posuit, et nos debemus pro fratribus animas ponere. Qui abuerit substantia mojus mundi, et videris fratrem suum necessitatem abere, et clausit viscera sua veo, comodo caritas manet Dei manet in eo. Filioli mei, non diligamus verbo, neque lingua, sed opere et veritate. Dominos vobiscum. Sequentia Sancti Evangelii secundum Lucam. In illo tempore dixit Iesus Pharisees parabolam, homo quidam fece cena magnam et vocavit multum. Et misit servum suum ora cene et dicere invitati sud veniret, quia iam parata sunt omnia. Et ceverum Simon omnes excusare, primus dixit ei, vilam emi et necessiabio exire, et videre illam rogo te abe me excusatum. Et alter dixit juga boum emi quinque, et eo probare ira, rogo te abere abe me excusatum. Et alius dixit, uxorem duxi ad idio non possum venire. Et reversus servus nunciabit ec Domino suo. Conceratus pater familias, dixit servo suo, exicito in plateas, et vicos civitatis, et pauperes ac debiles, et cecos, et claudos introducus. Et ait servos Domine, pactum est ut imperasti, et adoce locus est. Et ait Dominus servo, exi invias et sepes, et compelli entrare, ut empleatur domos mea. Dico autem vobis, quod nemo virorum illorum, Ilorum qui vocati sunt gustavi cenem meam. Today is the second Sunday after Pentecost, formerly the octave, Sunday within the octave of Corpus Christi. They changed the name of the Sunday, but didn't change the Mass of the Sunday. The epistle for the second Sunday after Pentecost, before the Sunday within the octave of Corpus Christi, is taken from First Epistle of St. John, chapter 3. Dearly beloved, wonder not if the world hate you. We know that we have passed from death to life, because we love the brethren. He that loveth not abideth in death. Whosoever hateth his brother is a murderer. And you know that no murderer hath eternal life abiding in himself. In this we have known the charity of God, because he hath laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. He that hath the substance of this world, and shall see his brother in need, and shall shut up his bowels from him, how doth the charity of God abide in him? My little children, let us not love in word nor in tongue, but in deed and in truth. The Gospel. Taking that according to St. Luke chapter 14. That time Jesus spoke to the Pharisees this parable. A certain man made a great supper and invited many. He sent his servant at the hour of the supper to say to them that were invited, that they should come. For now all things are ready. And they began all at once to make excuse. The first said to him, I have bought a farm, and must needs go out and see it. I pray thee, hold me excused. Another said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I go to try them. I pray thee, hold me excused. Another said, I have married a wife, therefore I cannot come. And the servant returning told these things to his lord. Then the master of the house, being angry, said to his servant, Go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city, and bring in hither the poor and the feeble and the blind and the lame. And the servant said, Lord, it is done as thou hast commanded, and yet there is room. The Lord said to the servant, Go out into the highways and the hedges, and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. But I say unto you that none of those men that were invited shall taste of my supper. Thus far the words of the day's Holy Gospel. Oh, the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost, amen. So today is the Sunday within the octave of Corpus Christi, and they've changed the name to the second Sunday after Pentecost, but the Sunday within the octave of Corpus Christi. And each day during this, since Corpus Christi on Thursday, considering various aspects of the Blessed Sacrament. And today on the Sunday, we consider the power of the Blessed Sacrament. And that the example is taken from the scripture reading from the book of Kings. As we read in the breviary today, one of the famous stories of the Ark of the Covenant, the Ark acting as a symbol of the power of the Blessed Sacrament, the presence of God. Remember, in the Ark had the laws, the 10 Commandments were inside of the Ark, and some pieces of manna that did not decay were inside of the Ark. And then also on top of the Ark was the propitiatory, which was two angels facing each other with 6 wings, and on top was an empty seat. And that seat represented the presence of God, the invisible God. The seat was empty because God was invisible. But in fact, it was not empty. The invisible God was on that seat. And so the manna on the inside, the 10 Commandments on the inside, and on the top we have the seat and the presence of God in this seat. And so it is and can be considered as a symbol not only of our Holy Church, but also of the Blessed Sacrament. And today we have one of the events. We read here just part of it from the book of Kings, chapter 5, which you have in the reading of the breviary today. Or rather, chapter 4. Of the book of Kings. So there was a battle. The first part is summarized. There was a battle between the Philistines and the Jews, and the Jews lost 4,000 men. There was a battle, and on the day they lost 4,000 men, and they were beaten.
and at night they were disturbed, and we were defeated by the Philistines. We need to go back into battle, and how are we going to defeat the Philistines? And the two priests, the sons of Heli, Ophni and Phinehas, they said, let us bring in the ark of the Lord. And so the people went to Shiloh, and they brought from thence the ark of the covenant of the Lord of hosts, sitting upon the cherubims. And the two sons of Heli, Ophni and Phinehas, the priests, were with the ark of the covenant of God. When the ark of the covenant of the Lord was come into the camp, all Israel shouted with a great shout, and the earth rang again. And the Philistines heard the noise of the shout, and they said, what is this noise of the great shout in the camp of the Hebrews? And they understood that the ark of the Lord was come into the camp. And the Philistines were afraid, saying, God is come into the camp. And sighing they said, woe to us, for there was no such great joy yesterday, and the day before. Woe to us! Who shall deliver us from the hands of these gods, of these high gods? These are the gods that struck Egypt, and all the plagues in the desert. Take courage, and behave like men, ye Philistines, lest you come to be the servants of the Hebrews, as they have served you. Take courage and fight. And so the Philistines fought, and Israel was overthrown, and every man fled to his own dwelling. And there was an exceeding great slaughter, for there fell in Israel 30,000 footmen. And the ark of God was taken, and the two sons of Heli, Ophni and Phinehas, were slain. So there's a famous battle of the Ark of the Covenant. That when the Ark came into the camp of the Jews, the Ark is going to bring victory to the Jews. We have the presence of God amongst us. And Phinehas and Ophni said, the presence of God is amongst us. Let us go in. And they were very happy. Meanwhile, the word spread to the Philistines that the Ark of the Covenant was in the camp of the Jews. And the Philistines were terrified. And they knew they would be defeated. But one man amongst the Philistines said, let us fight bravely anyway, for though the Egyptians were defeated by that god, though it struck Egypt with the plagues, though no one can defeat the God of the ark, we will fight bravely anyway, for it is better to die brave men than to fall into the hands of the Hebrews. They fought. Now in the battle before the ark came, 4,000 Jews were killed, and they were defeated. But when the ark came into the camp, 30,000 were killed, and they were slaughtered. And not only were the 30,000 killed, but the two priests, Ophni and Phinehas, were also killed. And on that same day, Heli died. Remember Samuel, when he was a young boy, God appeared to him, and Heli asked him, what did God tell you? And Samuel did not want to tell him. But finally he told him, God told me that your sons are evil priests, and they are bad priests, and they will die on the same day. And on the same day that they die, you will also die. Now they died in the morning, Ophni and Phinehas, and the messenger went back to Heli and told him, your sons have died. And he was in such a great shock that both his sons died in the same day that he had a heart attack and died. Heli would die the same day. It was the day they were going to fight with the Ark of the Covenant. And here we see the power of the Blessed Sacrament on the negative side. Remember that our Lord Jesus Christ, or rather St. Paul says, he that eats the bread of Christ unworthily, let him eat. But let him know that he heaps coals of fire upon his own head. That those who eat the bread unworthily eat it unto destruction. Those who eat it worthily eat it unto everlasting life, but those that consume the body and blood of Christ unworthily consume it unto destruction. And this is the danger that is presently facing our society right now. That we are going to take the truth of faith, and we are going to go into the camp of the enemy, and we are going to go in and we're going to convert them. And we're going to go in because we lost 4,000 yesterday, but we're going to go in and we're going to defeat them with the Ark of the Lord. But if we go into the ark with the Ark of the Lord into the camp of the enemy in his territory, in his battlefield, under his conditions, we will be destroyed. And where 4,000 died yesterday, 30,000 will die today. And where the priests survived yesterday, the priests will die today. It is a very grave danger that is presently tempting our society of St. Pius X. As one example, Father Tim, my brother, pointed out to Father Rostand and also to Father Onoda, you say that it is so important to speak up. Yesterday in an interview of Bishop Fillet, he said, or rather 2 days ago, when there are bad things happening in the church, we must speak out and we must act. And yet, I mistrust, Bishop Fillet says, I mistrust a purely verbal denunciation of the errors. First sentence, we must speak out and we must act. Second sentence, but I mistrust a verbal denunciation. For there must also be another kind. And then he doesn't explain what that means. And so we find in the Society of St. Pius X, before the agreement, that Father, myself, silenced. Father Chazelle, silenced. Father Cardoza, silenced. And other priests, 3 priests in Germany, silenced. 6 priests already have been silenced in the last 2 weeks. And Father Tim Pfeiffer wrote a little letter to Father Onoda, and he said to him, if the pre-agreement SSPX is silencing criticism of the errors in the church today and of the situation in which we have with Rome, how is the post-agreement SSPX supposed to stand strong and continue to criticize? If we're not allowed to criticize now, how are we going to be allowed to criticize later? Now we are completely free. Then we will be under the bishop. Now we are completely free. Then we will be under the whims of the Pontifical Commission in charge of us, which will not be the Ecclesia Dei Commission, but the Doctrine of the Faith Commission. Cardinal Lavada, the Cardinal who just said in March of 2012 that going to a Society of St. Pius X Mass and going to the Friends of the Society Mass no longer fulfills a Sunday obligation. Monsignor Pearl said before, and he hates us, he's an enemy of us, Monsignor Pearl said before, if you go to the Masses of the Society and the Friends of the Society, you fulfill your Sunday obligation, just don't give a big donation. Now, it no longer fulfills the Sunday obligation. Now that we're closer to Rome, now that we've had doctrinal discussions, now that we are better, now that we are more loved, it's no longer fulfilling your Sunday obligation. Before, when we were hated, and when we were outside, and we were enemies, it fulfilled the Sunday obligation. Now we're friends, and we don't fulfill the Sunday obligation. And so what is happening? It's very serious what is happening. There is a danger of our loss of the confession of the faith completely. We cannot speak it boldly and clearly now. How are we going to be able to speak it boldly and clearly later? How is that going to be the case? And if we call upon the power of the Ark, the power of the Rosary Crusades, the power of the Mass, the power of the Blessed Sacrament, this power may show itself in a different way than we expect. It was the power of the Ark that killed 30,000 Jews. If they didn't have the Ark, they would have lost, but they would not have been slaughtered. But because they brought the Ark, remember, Ophni and Phinehas were not living according to the law of God. They were priests, but they were abusing the people, and they were stealing the money from the sacrifice, and they were evil priests, and they brought in the Ark of the Covenant. And then we find that the Jewish people who were not living according to the law of God called in the power of the Ark. And they said, the Ark will save us, and the Ark will give us victory. And they went into battle, and the Ark destroyed them. Then the Philistines took the Ark. And what did the Ark do to them? The Ark also destroyed them. When they took the Ark, they got plagues, and they got sick, and they were dying. And they had nothing but misery from the moment they captured the Ark. until they couldn't take the misery anymore, and they gave the ark back. The Jews didn't capture it back. The Philistines gave it back. That this has brought us too many curses, and they gave it back. In order to receive blessings from God, it is necessary not only to have the ark, it is necessary to have the faith of that ark and to confess the faith contained inside of it. It is necessary to hold all of the entirety of that faith in our doctrine, in our lives, in our teaching, and then the ark will give us defense. But if we are going to depend only upon the ark, we shall be defeated. Confusion is coming out of the mouth of Menzingen now. For the first time in the history of the Society of St. Pius X, we don't know what is being said. We are finding confusion. We must speak out, but I distrust speaking out, said Bishop Fillet 2 days ago. We must speak out, but I distrust speaking out. The rumors about Austria, the 4 rumors about Austria were about what's going to happen to the society and to the personal prelature. They are completely false. And then 2 questions later, in fact, part of the rumors are true. First he says they're completely false. And then he says, we will not be able to operate in a diocese without the permission of the local bishop. A future Society of St. Pius X will not be able to open a new church, will not be able to open a new mass center, will not be able to function in a diocese without the permission of the local bishop. That's one of the 4 rumors. First he says they're completely false. Then he verifies it. We're finding confusion. Different speech. We must speak out, but we cannot speak out. I mistrust speaking out. There's a confusion in our language and a confusion in our communication, and this confusion must come to an end. We must go back to clear teaching of our faith. There must go back to the clear expression of the faith, the clear confession of the truth, and the clear denunciation of the error. If we become like another fraternity of St. Peter, then it means we go inside the Ecclesia Dei communities and we become one with the Ecclesia Dei communities, then this is something we should have done 24 years ago. Why didn't we do that 24 years ago? If it was wrong then when the church was going down, it is wrong now as the churches continue to go down. If it was right then we did wrong in 1988. Can't have it both ways. We can't say it was right to reject the Ecclesia Dei communities in 88, and it was wrong to reject them in 2012. If it was wrong to accept them then, it's wrong to accept them now. If it was right to accept them now, then it was also right to accept them then. We can't have it both ways. We go underneath the bishop who's trying to destroy the church. Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre said in 1990, 2 years after the consecration, Cardinal Ratzinger, even if you give us our own cardinal, our own personal prelature, our own bishops, our own everything, we cannot work with you because you are working towards the de-Christianization of society and we are working for the Christianization of society. We're working in 2 different purposes and 2 different directions. Therefore, we cannot work closely with you. That's what Archbishop Lefebvre said. It still remains true. We must save the Catholic faith. The strength of the Society of St. Pius X is the faith. It doesn't have any other strength. Like any other order of the church, it stands only upon the faith. And if we try to stand upon anything else, there will be disaster. There will not be victory. There will be many casualties. There will be many souls lost. Many souls. And so in any case, we ask the grace to stand firm upon the faith as we've always stood upon it for the last 40 years. And to continue to stand firm upon the faith. Not to bend, not to turn away from it. The church is continuing. The modern churchmen are continuing to go away from God. The modern churchmen are continuing to push the various errors, in fact, all of the errors of Vatican II. They haven't given them up. They're pushing them more and more and more. These errors are still errors. They were errors yesterday, and they are still errors today. They needed to be condemned yesterday, and they still need to be condemned today. Because Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And the truth is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And also the devil is the same yesterday, today, and forever. The devil hasn't changed either. God hasn't changed, and the devil hasn't changed. We must continue to stand firm for the faith. And beware of the familiar accusations. If you stand for the faith, you're a sedevacantist. It's foolishness. We've heard that argument for the last 40 years, and repeating the same baloney over and over again. If you don't go under Rome, if you don't become obedient, then you are like Martin Luther. That's what they accuse our Pfeiffer of being like Martin Luther. It's foolishness. St. Paul said, if an angel from heaven, if we, St. Paul, or an angel from heaven, teach you something different than what we have already taught you, let him be anathema. St. Paul couldn't have been more clear. Pope Benedict XVI is teaching something different. He's teaching something different. He's teaching that the other religions have something to offer our religion. He's teaching that the Jews don't need to believe in Jesus Christ in order to go to heaven. He is teaching that the Catholic Church tradition changes and Catholic Church truth changes like evolution. He's teaching these things, and these are each of them different than what Christ taught us. Therefore, let him be anathema. We don't follow that false teaching. We have to follow the true teaching and stay with it. And we've done that for 40 years. And lastly, you should all listen to the sermon of Father Patrick Girard, which he goes through in a very quick catechism. It's an excellent catechism. He rereads the catechism of the crisis of the church. It's a very good summary. Rereads the catechism of the crisis of the church. His sermon from last week, it's available on the internet. He very clearly goes through the catechism, and he concludes by just reading the text. He says, this is not Father Girard speaking. This is SSPX, the Catechism of the Church. Catechism of the Crisis in the Church. This is the official teaching of the Society of St. Pius X. And if the Society of St. Pius X turns against its own official teaching, then we must in conscience leave the Society of St. Pius X. Fortunately, this hasn't happened yet. But there are dangerous signs that it is going to happen. The priests, the faithful, must stand up and say, no, we must confess the faith. We must condemn the errors. We've been doing it for 40 years. It's worked quite effectively over the last 40 years. Let us continue to do it for the next 40 years, or 100 years, or 1,000 years, however long the crisis goes. And when the Pope comes back to teaching the truth, fine. When he stops teaching the truth, then we can't accept that. And he has continued to stop teaching the truth. The time will come when he converts. And Our Lady tells us the Pope is going to convert when Russia is consecrated to the Immaculate Heart. Our Lady of Quito tells us that the conversion will happen when things are at their worst. And between now and then, we must just persevere and wait for Our Lady to bring the victory. And we'll close with that. God bless you all. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Credo in unum Deum. Pater noster, Qui probernos homines, et pro
sia pro nobis, summonsio Pilato, casus et seculum, et resurrexi tertia die, secundum scripturam, et ascendit in caelum, senerat exerum Patrem, et iterum in lux et gloria, unica et vivas et mortuum, reini non erit et in spiritum sanctum Dominum, et vivificantem, qui ex Padre Filio et Spiritus, Padre et Filio, simulatum, et glorificatum, cui globus es verbo credo, et unam sanctam et apostolicam ecclesiam, confiteorum baptismam, in remissionem peccatorum, et expecto resurrectionem mortuorum, et vitam venturi seculi. Dominus vobiscum. Oremus. Dominus Orate fratres.
Supia Dominus Sanctissimi et manibus tuis ad valem et bonum nomine sui, virtutatem proprio nostrum Christus per ecclesia sui sanctus.
Per omnia
et omnia saecula saeculorum. Dominus vobiscum, sursum corda, gratias agamus Domino Deo nostro. Vere dignum et justum est, ecum et salutare, nos tibi semper ubique gratias agere, Domine Sancte Patrem Nipotens Eterne Deus, qui comune genito Filio Tuo, et Spiritus Sancto unus est Deus, unus est Dominus, non in illius singularitate personae, sed in unius unitate substantiae. Ora nimitiva gloria revelante te credimus, hoc de Filio Tuo, hoc de Spiritu Sancto, sine differentia discretionis sentimus, ut in confessione veris epiterneque Deitatis, net in personis proprietas, et in essentia unitas, et in majestate adoretur qualitas, quam laudant angeliatque arcangeli, cherubim quoque ac seraphim, quinces acclamare quotidie, una voce dicentes.
Sanctus, Sanctus, Sanctus.
omnia saecula saeculorum. Oremus, preceptus alataribus moniti, et divina institutione formati, audemus dicere, Pater noster qui es in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua, sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimite nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem. Per omnia saecula saeculorum. Pax Domini sit semper vobiscum.
Dominant as being used. Cabo Domino, Group One, Figure Mickey, Salamone Domino, Dominos Vobiscum, Orfemus, Somdis Munaribus Sacris, Quesumus Domine, Fucum Frequentazione Mysterii, Crescat Nostre Salutis Effectus, et Domine Nostrum Iesum Christum Filium Tuum, qui te computer regna Trinitatis Spiritus Sancti, per omnia saecula saeculorum. Dominus vobiscum, Father et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus. Dominus vobiscum. Medium Sancti Evangelii Supernum Luam. Gloria to thee. Principio et Omnia purpose Sancti Singles Dominus. Puramus et Testimony. non era se tutto stesso non era persone con poi non si parla poi con la persona che non è per la data ma di ieri e si parla di sono ben e poi e che non è